Hello, all, and welcome back for another installment of the Anarchy News Network. As of this episode's recording and release, we are still in the midst of the human malware, copyright Gamers Nexus, pandemic, and it's about time we talked about it again. But man, did this one go off the rails quickly, as it normally does when we have our very own spiritual guru, Yogi Devadas, with us. Yogi returns to the show to help discuss the current social and political climate we're all living in and help bring some light to some of all this bullshit, too. Warning, this episode is politically charged, and if that's not your thing, we totally get it. In the meantime, make sure to check out Yogi on Twitch, and we'll be back next week with your regularly scheduled episode of the Anarchy Arena podcast. But for now, Anarchy News Network number 2, One Nation Under Stupidity.
Welcome to the Anarchy Arena News Network now, I guess is what we're calling this. And I just wanted to start with something here because I know the world's going crazy, and especially if you live in these places that are opening up. I just want to open up with some wise words of the prophet. Not that prophet. Bill Hicks. The world is like a ride in an amusement park. And when you choose to go on it, you think it's real because that's how powerful our minds are. The ride goes up and down and round, has thrills, chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry. Don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people.
Bill Hicks, you are not.
Bill Hicks, I may not be, but those words are very fucking true, if ever, in the current situation.
Well, you're very true. So here we go. Anarchy News Network number 2, where we're going to talk about, as one of my favorite YouTubers has coined it, human malware.
Yeah, human.
That's what coronavirus is, human malware. We're going to talk about human malware, and somebody else who's joining us for this conversation who also isn't Bill Hicks. We brought back our favorite spiritual guru, Mr. Yogi Devadas.
Am I in the right studio? Is this where I'm supposed to be?
Dude, if you're in a studio, you're doing way better than us. So I don't know where the fuck you are right now.
Can you hold down the studio that you're at? So
like we might be able to get a flight. They're dirt cheap right now.
Damn it, guys! You have to preserve the illusion for the listeners, man. I was painting a picture with my words, and you just
John's totally not resting his elbow on my bed right now. Yeah, that's not what's happening.
This is like as cheap of a good podcast as you can get. Let's put it this way. We don't have a studio. We don't have like a great setup, but fuck it, we make it sound pretty.
We have Yogi. We have pop filters, and we will use them, damn it.
Goddamn right.
Yogi, namaste.
Namaste, John. Namaste, Chris. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me back. I had a ball last time I was with you guys, and I'm very, very happy to be back.
Well, we are certainly glad to have you back. It was an interesting conversation. I got a little bit of feedback, and people were curious to have you come back and see what you might talk about the next time. So last time we talked about your spirituality and everything that went along with that, whatnot. And since this is the Anarchy News Network, we now have freeform to talk about the current events of human malware / COVID-19 / coronavirus / idiots with guns outside their governor's houses / idiots with really bad tans that stand up on podiums and then decide, oh, we don't need to do this anymore. Because it's over, right? It's totally over. The virus is done, right? This is the day before Mother's Day, by the way, everybody. Mother's Day 2020. This is the day before that, so you can get an idea of where we are in the timeline. We're not out of this shit yet.
Oh, no.
Contrary to popular belief.
That, Chris, that was like the longest file name I've ever heard in my life. Did you type that in Leet? Is that how you compress that? What do you do?
I'll do you one better. I typed it in ASCII.
Oh, God.
Oh, damn.
Poor bastard.
Okay.
If anyone listening to this knows what ASCII is, You're my new friend.
But yeah,
you know, I don't know what to say except I'm on Linux, bitch. I thought you knew.
Oh shit!
You got that penguin hype.
Yeah. So the insanity that's been going down with all this dumb shit. It's like because we live in a state that's open. I know, Yogi, your state's still closed, right?
Yes, my state is still closed because, you know, it's really weird. So in Jersey, our governor has really stepped up to the plate and been very no nonsense, while also constantly being open-minded to advances and information coming from the actual scientific community and medical community about the situation. So he's really been doing well, which is odd. We're not used to that here. We just got off of Chris Christie. We're not used to that.
And it's New Jersey. You're New York's asshole. You shouldn't be used to things going well.
How dare you?
First of all, I have family that used to live in New Jersey, so I've been there plenty of times. And don't lie to me, Yogi. You're New York's asshole.
No.
Let's be honest. Just say it. Just say it.
No. Where in New Jersey?
Teaneck?
Teaneck. Really?
Yes.
And where else besides there have you been in Jersey? And the Turnpike does not count.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the Turnpike all Jersey's made up of? It's like Turnpike, Teaneck, your side of the Hudson River, New York. And the Hudson River is like the intestines that flows between New York and New York's asshole, New Jersey.
No, you see, here's the thing. This is what people forget about. The Turnpike is where we get all the out-of-state people to go so that we don't have to deal with them. That's all you're dealing with on the Turnpike. The only time you see Jerseyans on the Turnpike is when there's no other way for us to get to the destination we want to get to. We do constant highway and freeway driving all the time, and we make everyone else who's from out of state go on the Turnpike because, A, give us your money if you're going through our state with your, like, non-Jersey BS, okay? Number two, y'all don't know how to drive on highways properly, so please don't drive near us. We will be enraged by you.
I'm sorry. You're telling other people they don't know how to drive? Correct me if I'm wrong. New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, at one time, and as far as I know, the left turn is still illegal, right? That's why you guys invented the jug handle, and you're trying to tell people how to drive in a state where the left turn is illegal. If that's not a metaphor for what's going on with the world right now, the entire world is just like, fuck, we're gonna be like New Jersey. The left-hand turn is illegal.
Oh, Chris, how wrong you are. I'm telling you right now, what you think is left is actually central right.
I wasn't speaking in political directions.
Oh, okay, I was about to say.
Like the Bugs Bunny bit. I should have taken that left at Albuquerque. We all saw that went, nope, lefts are illegal. We just got to keep going, apparently.
Yeah. No, I was about to be like, oh, Chris.
No, not political left, just woo
well,
left.
We're going to get there tonight.
Hey, seriously, though, I do need to ask, is that still a thing? Is it still illegal to make a left turn in Jersey?
It's not that it's illegal. It's not illegal. There are plenty of places that do have left turns. It's just that there's a majority of places that still have the jug handles because they're right there. So for the most part, we still use them. Like on newer roads that are being built, yeah, there are left turns.
Yeah, Chris.
I'm just saying, at one point in time, there was no left turns in the state of New Jersey. I guess they were worried too many of you were going to end up in the ocean or the Hudson or find another state and go, oh God, why are we still in Jersey?
And at one point in all of our states, it was illegal for white people and black people to drink from the same water fountain. What's your point?
That's true. I'm just saying.
Some people are still mad about that.
Those are the people we'll be speaking about tonight.
Yeah.
Yes,
not that we're pointing at two specific fuckers in Georgia or anything. Not that we're talking about those. No, definitely not. We're not talking about those fuckers.
Oh my God, I can't.
By the way, thank you, America, for getting mad about something that happened in fucking February.
Yeah, it took you long enough, right?
Like, I understand we just got the footage. I get that. But if that's not America in a fucking nutshell, I don't know what is.
Right.
We get mad about shit that happened 3 fucking months ago. And
like
then
y'all weren't suspicious? Y'all weren't like a little suspicious? Like,
yeah, by the way, if you're listening to this and you are one of the white folk, the Caucasian
oh goodness,
people, Let me be the first to tell you, as a fellow white folk and Caucasian person,
we are saltine Americans.
Only my friends can call me saltine.
Wait. Y'all are white?
Shit.
Well, let's put it this way. Our skin tone is white. Let me inform my fellow white people, because I love telling my brothers and sisters truths. Police be beating the shit out of everybody. If you are broke and you are living in the wrong neighborhood, they are beating the fuck out of you and arresting you for no goddamn reason. And I know, Chris, that your dad's a cop, but you know this for a fact because you've lived in those poor fucking neighborhoods and seen this shit happen.
There are shit cops in every department.
Okay, then why doesn't every department just fire them and put them in jail instead of putting them on administrative leave and then telling them, we'll see you in 6 months?
I don't have an answer for you. I truly don't.
Okay, then.
Because unfortunately, this might be news to some people, and I know it will be. The chief of police for a department, 9 times out of 10, is a political appointment.
Yeah.
It is not a hiring appointment. It is a political appointment.
Yeah. And why see, this is the shit I don't get. And I know we're kind of going off the rails a little bit.
That's this whole show.
But this is kind of the whole
White
show.
trash Netflix.
Yeah. White trash Netflix. But I don't fucking get why, when you have clear fucking video proof, clear video proof, clear audio proof, just the guy's fucking caught. We put him on administrative leave for 6 months, and he gets to sit at home keeping his paycheck until all this blows over and America forgets again.
I know in some cases that is a basically blanket policy for a department. If you're under investigation for any reason, small or big, everybody gets treated the same. I know that's the case in some departments, not all. So that might be the reason it's just a blanket order. If you're under investigation for tiny little bullshit, this is what you get. If you're under investigation for big bullshit, this is what you get. Everybody gets the same treatment when they're under internal affairs investigation.
Well, you know how to put it.
Okay, so when they get,
it's also, though, how to put it. It's also things like, you know, that blue wall of silence is very much a thing. And how to put it, it's one of those weird situations where, even though not all police officers act this way, the way in which the hierarchy is structured and the methodologies that are there, like the blue wall of silence and other such things, make it very easy for corrupt cops, for bad cops to A, keep their positions of power, and then B, for that corruption to possibly infect other police officers down the line as well.
I will not discount that. And a lot of that, I will say, also comes from a societal thing. For years and years and years, were the corrupt cops? Yes, but they were much more difficult to get entrenched, because way back when, in the quote-unquote golden era, if you want to call it that, of this country, not that I think we've ever really had a golden era.
That wasn't our color.
Basically, yeah. The quote-unquote golden era. You never looked at a cop with distrust. It just didn't happen. Unless you were, of course, of an extreme minority, even way back when. It as a societal norm, you didn't look at a cop with distrust. And that has permeated for years and years and years, until only the last decade or so, where now we have the ability to basically, with body cams and things like that, be able to really see what's going on a day-to-day basis. And as much as I hate to say it, though, granted, TV producers have a great way of picking departments, cops, now we're at the point where we can see how these guys work day in and day out. And a lot of us start to question it, like, wait, I thought it's an inherent thing. You see that uniform, you're supposed to trust it implicitly. That's what it should be. That's what it always should be. You should see that uniform and trust it implicitly.
I hate to break it to you, and you know I love you. You know I love you. But
he's about to say some nasty shit.
Not going to say nasty shit. I'm going to try to educate. Because you grew up in kind of middle to upper middle class area, right?
Yeah.
I didn't. I grew up in the fucking backwoods, country as fuck, trailer park, shit like that.
Right.
Cops were never there to be a bastion of authority and good, ever. You know what they were there for? Break up families, to stop parties, to arrest people that, you know, were they selling drugs? Of course they were, but they're also putting food on the fucking table for their kids. And now that's gone.
And and I have to agree with John here. Personally, as someone who grew up in like I grew up in a in a multi-ethnic low working class neighborhood, and the only time the police ever showed up and were like around were either A, to do something like that, or B, just to get off on the intimidation factor, just to like be around and have that air of like, yeah, you know what we can do.
Yeah.
And absolutely, I will fully admit there are individual cops like that. There are even whole departments like that.
There's whole fucking city divisions, period.
Absolutely there is. I will never, ever say all cops are bad, because that's simply not true. You've got, even in the shit departments, you've got that one or two is like, man, I do this job to help the people, but fuck the higher ups.
I understand that. But the problem is, oh shit, we're getting into it now. The problem is that those one or two good cops are either silent because they don't want to cause a ruckus, or forced to be silent, or fired. Like that.
Sometimes, yes, absolutely.
No, not sometimes. Every fucking time. Every time there's one good cop in a whole fucking station full of bad cops, the good cop don't last. Every fucking time. What? There is no Jim Gordon. Jim Gordon does not exist. Jim Gordon's not going to be the one good. There's not going to be one good cop that goes to the ranks and everything. Is never corrupted. Never anything. He's either going to finally give in, or he's going to just quit or get fired.
And even when that is the case, right? Like, even if you did like have a situation where there's like there's like a handful or even a decent amount of good cops, of cops that actually like uphold that concept, that societal concept that we've constructed around them, they tend not to really speak out. They tend not to overtly do anything, and to quote a great man, all that really needs to happen for evil to triumph is for good men to.
Exactly.
It's very true. This is a little disheartening, I have to admit, because as you know, I grew up around cops.
Yeah.
And did I meet some idiot ones?
Of course you did.
Yeah, I met some idiot ones, but never any that were outright pieces of shit.
Because
I heard stories of some of the pieces of shit ones.
Yeah.
Not going to mention any of those stories for obvious reasons, but the majority of the cops that I grew up around were all, if not good, decent human beings.
See, but that's the thing. And I love you, but I've told you this multiple times. You grew up in a completely different world than people like me and Yogi and Jack and, Jesse. A lot of people who say cops have always been fucking assholes. You just finding out about it now because it's on the internet. We've known this because we've been harassed by them.
And
I've been harassed by cops, and I'm a Southern white man.
And it's like, it's also something. And this kind of because you were saying like bringing me on to talk about like where my politics come from in my spiritual vein and things like that, like where that comes from. This is a really big thing about this, right? Is that, how to put this? We create cops and cops create us in this particular dichotomy. There's this weird thing that happens where, how to put this? As human beings, none of us intentionally does what we consider to be overtly morally reprehensible, at least at the time that we're doing. No one goes out to be a bad person. No one goes out to be an asshole. Everyone does what they think is right according to their own models, their own perceptions, and whatever projections they're working with in their head at that moment, in that day, that time. And it's like we all like have these roles that we play, and we take these roles so far that we almost become different people. Like there are so many like sociological and psychological experiments that factor around that once you put people in a position of authority with a uniform of authority, when they're operating in that mode, it kind of changes their personality, or at least it changes the way in which they interact with other people. So even though there are cops that are good people, and you've been able to see them both in and out of uniform and have had like the opportunity to interact with them in a space where they're just human beings, you see that. But there's this very common phenomena that happens, and once they put on that uniform and they have that power and they have that ability, it changes the way that they interact with other people. It changes the way that they experience interaction with other people. And the way in which we structure the police force in this country and in the society is so unhealthy. It does create like an unhealthy power structured mindset that even in the best people, it will affect.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris, to ruin that vision of yours, but
I guess I just have a more idealized idea of police in my head from where I grew up, from who I grew up around, and for what I know the meaning of the term police officer should be.
Right. And if police officers were like that, then yeah, me and Yogi would be like, no, you're right. There's a couple of bad cops, but majority of them are good. It's not that way.
Yeah,
because of how the authority is given out. For instance, why the fuck do small town cops need military tanks?
I do not agree with, especially in those smaller communities, those communities departments having just below military grade weaponry. That's a little ridiculous. Some of them are even
just below. Some of them are right on fucking par. Like, why do you think they do that? It's control. It's oppression. It's not to keep the people fucking safe. It's oppression. It's to keep you from rising up against them. Why? Well, if they start out on a higher plane than you, then you will be less inclined to rebel and refute the shit they say.
It's one of those weird things where, like, this is why, and this is actually why in anarchist models and more socialistic models, why, especially where those two meet, where you have like an anarcho-socialist kind of situation, this is why you don't really have police, you have military personnel, or you have like a mixture of military personnel and peacekeeping officers. Because, like, how to put it, like, if the police operated purely as peacekeeping officers, if that was actually what they did, we would not be having this conversation.
Right.
But that's not how the power structure that we've created for them is set up. Like, like for instance, what's the most common thing, right? What's the most common thing that people think of when they think of the police force? It's the phrase "serve and protect," right? That's not true.
Yes,
that's absolutely not true. That they are legally not obliged to do that.
Yep. The cops are not legally obliged to serve and protect. They are obliged to keep themselves and their fellow fellow police officers safe.
Well, and more specifically, and I'm saying this on legal grounds. I'm saying that there were like Supreme Court cases in the past like 50 years that actually declared this as part of like American law, that police officers are not legally obliged to protect or serve citizens. They are, however, legally obliged to try to apprehend criminals for prosecution. That is all legally that they are obligated to do, according to the United States Supreme Court. Now, that's something that
case in fucking
they don't really talk about that much, but that's a thing.
Yeah, case in fucking point, the Parkland shit. When that officer was just sitting outside waiting for shit to go down, and the sheriff would not give him orders. He, technically speaking, he's legally protected.
Yes, he is.
Now,
I don't agree with it.
And no one should agree with it. Why? Because you're an officer. It's like signing up the fucking military. I don't want you to die, but if the situation comes to it and you have to go into a dangerous situation, you need to and you signed up for it. Like, you signed up for it. Well, I'm not legally obligated to do it. Well, I'm not legally obligated to do it either as a citizen. But if I was in that situation, I would go in. Why? Because I'm morally obligated to it. Unfortunately, that disconnect is in a lot of officers.
You also have a whole generation of people that went to police academies. I can't believe we've been on cops this long. Holy shit. You also have a whole generation of people that went to police academies that grew up watching cop shows and cop movies. They think that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Whereas the generation before them didn't have that. So they were taught how to properly do the job.
Well,
now all these kids getting raised on mass media and what they're being told and what they're being shown and what's being portrayed as how a police officer is supposed to act and what their roles are. That's what they think the job is.
Yeah. And it's like the difference between watching Columbo and Cujo versus not Cujo, Kojak.
That'd be a really weird cop show, Cujo.
Yeah, that would be a really cool cop show.
Cop.
Between watching them and watching Cops and fucking like Law and Order SVU or some shit like that. The Cops in the Law and Order SVU should be under investigation every fucking time they go out.
Yeah, no shit.
Now I'm starting to think about that. If Cujo was a cop show, what would that be like? Would it be like Tequila and Benetti After Dark, like rips apart like the criminals?
Yes.
Is that what that is?
It'd be like Dexter. He would go out and he would help with the investigation until he found out where the criminal was, and they'd just go and chomp his throat out.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be the Dexter of dogs.
Speaking of dogs, hey Yogi, what about that snake story?
Speaking of dogs, my dog almost came this close to eating a skink earlier today.
Didn't he eat it? I thought he ate it. All that was left was the tail.
No. The tail's still out there.
No, he ate that tail, just so you know.
No, oh, did he? Is it gone now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, shit. No, he got it in his mouth, and I saw it in his mouth still moving around, and then he dropped it so it could run away again so he could catch it again, and then it got out of the fence. No, he didn't end up eating it, but he caught the sumbitch.
Harvey is a hunter.
And skink sounds like snake, so how about that snake story?
I like your segue better.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll do snake story, but I need to just point out, like that right there, that is a southern euphemism, if anything. But he caught that son bitch.
He caught him.
He caught that son bitch, damn it. And you know what? He played around with it, and he threw it up around, he chased it, and, he had himself a right good old time.
Hell yeah, he did.
It was really fucking funny to watch. The funniest thing is I let him back inside, right? Because I don't want him going after the thing still. I want him to calm down. And he's standing at the back door, like, with this huge dog grin on his face, just looking at the door and looking back at me like, I fucking did it, man. Can I go do it again? I fucking did it, man. Can I go do it again? Like, that's the look that's on his face. I'm like, oh, my God. You know that old adage where they say if he caught it, he wouldn't know what to do with it? I've now seen that proven. He didn't know what the fuck to do with it.
He was just beside himself with joy.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh god. Okay, so snake story. Now, okay, so as y'all know, and as anyone who's listening and heard the last episode I was on here knows, I on a spiritual level, I feel very positively towards psychedelic experience. Now
you're talking Hunter S. Thompson, right? You just read a lot of Hunter S. Thompson.
Sure.
Right? That's it, right? That's what we're talking about here, right?
That can totally be what we're talking about here. I don't know why it should be, because I straight up said the sentence, "Oh, I did acid the last time I was on here," so I really don't know why we're trying.
Okay, yeah, you did. So I don't know why we're censoring it.
Yeah, like we had a whole fucking episode dedicated to high stories, Chris.
We did. That's true.
Did you forget where you were for a minute?
No, man. You own the photo hut.
Dave? Dave's not here, man.
Oh man. I do own the but okay, but yeah, so there was an instant where I was with family members. I have some family members that they're not just Christian, they're woo Christian. I feel the spirit kind of Christians, and I'm just like, oh dear Lord. And so
my flavor of Christianity.
Yep, believing in that there Pentecost and that women need to keep their ankles covered and shit like that. Like
goddamn right.
Like they were into it. They were into it, man. It was.
I'm just
weird.
thinking about women's ankles right now, and I can hardly control myself. Oh God, the ankles.
I'm just jerking off right now thinking about an ankle.
It's not an impressive sight, everybody. It's okay.
Why am I here?
Well, neither was the ankle.
But anyway, but so they convinced me to go to a tent revival. I said to myself, I'm like, okay, I'll go, but I'm taking acid.
as one should do.
This is happening, and so we go to the service, and the service kicks off, and people are feeling the spirit, people are speaking in tongues, they're feeling the word, and all that. And I'm just sitting there, just kind of spaced out of everything. I'm just like, oh man, it's a beautiful summer day. I'm feeling this, even though I don't agree with the ideology, I feel the emotion going around me. There's so much love and passion and shit going on around me. It's a good, it's a good space to be in. And then one preacher come up, pulled the snakes out of the box, and started handling the snakes. And I swear to God, I made eye contact with this snake.
Oh God, please help.
I made eye contact, and I was just like, I have to go talk to that snake. That snake has something to tell me. And so...
Oh shit. Not only does he do psychedelics, is he an anarchist and a Hinduist, but ladies and gentlemen, this man is a parcel tongue.
Yeah.
Exactly. The snake is my friend. The snake is my friend. And I was like, no, he needs to, he has a message for me. And John, as I describe what I'm about to do, after I describe this, I would like your input from a Pentecostal standpoint, what this looks like. Okay? So I get up out of the seat, and I just start walking towards the front. I start walking towards the little ramp thing, the little podium that they put on the grass that they're all standing on. And I start walking up there, and I walk up to it, and I walk up to the preacher, and I just, without saying anything, I just put my hand out, and I take the snake out of his hand, and I just hold it, and I look at it in the face, and I'm just holding it in my hand. It's not doing anything. It's just chilling. It actually wraps itself around my hand. It just stays there. And I'm just looking at it. And I won't say what he told me, because that was for me. But he told me what he needed to tell me. And
I would okay. I thought there was a pause there for a second. I've got something for you.
And then the preacher says, "Look, he's got the word of Jesus in him." And I looked at the man with the biggest smile on my face and just said, No, I don't. And then I handed the snake back to him, and then I went and sat back down. Now, I don't think anyone else but him heard me say that, because the rest of them were just hooting and hollering, but...
I'm surprised they didn't shoot you right there on sight for being a damn devil.
No. See, that's a misconception. We don't kill people because they worship Satan. We just pray for them. We're not,
thoughts and prayers.
We're not Fred Phelps. So my view of that, if I was a Pentecostal and I was at that tent revival and I saw that shit, all right, here's what I would have thought. Oh, he's walking up there to play with the fucking snakes. That's stupid. Why the hell would you want to play? He's got the snake in his hand, and it's wrapping around his hand. He just said something to the preacher, and now the preacher's ghost white. And he handed the snake back. Well, I think I've had enough of this shit, and walk out.
No more Kool-Aid for me.
Because while I may have been Pentecostal, I'm not that Pentecostal. It's like when you're gay and everyone is like, oh, do you go to drag shows? No. I'm gay, but I'm not that gay. I was Pentecostal. I'm not that Pentecostal.
What? I'm always curious. The people who are that Pentecostal, who believe in the snake and scorpion handling and shit like that, what would their view of what I had just done? What would they think about that?
They would probably think the same thing he thought, which is, oh, he's got the Spirit of God in him. Because I don't know if I explained this in the Pentecostal episode I did where I was talking about it, mostly because it wasn't my personal belief, but I did do research on it. So basically the whole snake handling and drinking poison and holding scorpions, shit like that, that's supposed to test your faith in God. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Well, how is it? What happens with the results? Okay, let's say you get bitten by the snake, Chris.
Ow.
you did not have enough faith in God, and you need to repent before you die.
Wait. I get bit by the snake, and it's my fault.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, generally speaking, it usually is a human's fault when they get bit by a snake. But that's beside the point here.
Let's say you don't get bit.
Then you don't have God in you because the snake didn't want to fucking make out with you.
No. You are filled with God's spirit, and you have complete and total faith in him.
Wait. If the snake doesn't bite me, then somehow the Lord up on high has granted me the ability of animal handling and roll the natural 20 on it, and therefore I am safe.
Yes.
Yeah. No. This comes out of a story from the Gospels where when Jesus tells the apostles, which this is the thing that people get mixed up, right? Is that Jesus had many disciples. He had hundreds and hundreds of disciples, people who followed and believed him. But the apostles were like the 12 to 13 specific people who were his inner
13.
circle.
Don't forget about Rufus.
Well, I was going to say,
don't forget about Rufus.
Well, actually, I was
kind of.
Oh, actually, I was going to say that Mary Magdalene was considered an apostle for the longest time. Romans.
Yes, she was.
Shit. But,
well, it's kind of hard to be an apostle when you're the wife.
That was their view.
But
hold on, time out. No, I had to complete that thought. The reason why Jesus was called rabbi wasn't just because he was teaching them. In order to be a rabbi, you have to be fucking married, right?
Yes, you do.
Case in fucking point.
You do. Like they could not call him rabbi if he wasn't. There were other words in Hebrew they could. So he had
exactly.
So he had to be. But yeah. So this comes from like a thing in the Gospels where Jesus tells his apostles that they are to go out and to preach the word and to preach the gospel and spread the good news. And there's a passage that says he gives them the power to trample over serpents and scorpions, and no weapons or powers of the enemy hurt them. Now, this is obviously meant to be, because it's Jesus and he speaks in parables, this is meant to be allegorical. This is meant to, from an academic standpoint, this is Jesus saying, yeah, go forth and preach the good word that, like, the kingdom of God is in you and all that stuff. Well, what gives us the authority to do that? You do. You have the authority to do this. You have the power within you to do this. And as you go out, like, no misinformation, no snakes in the grass, can twist your words or say anything against you. These people then take that to mean, no, that means that if I have enough faith in God to be as an apostle, I can literally handle snakes and scorpions and drink poisonous materials and not die.
It's because it's the word, capital T and capital W, and therefore it's infallible, and it is not interpretive, it is literal.
Yep.
That explains so much about the idiots right now. It really does. People need to go back to school.
Yes, they do.
They don't know the term. They don't know the difference between a literal and a metaphor. Yeah, that explains so much about the state of the world right now, specifically the state of this country.
Okay, they literally think, Chris, and we'll get to fucking politics here in a moment, but I kind of want to go on this. They literally think that there was a Samaritan. There was a good Samaritan. They think that was a literal fucking person. Yeah.
You guys can't see me, but I'm face palming a little bit.
Yeah, he's face palming real hard.
Oh,
they think there's an actual good Samaritan.
I can't see it.
They think there's an actual prodigal son.
I can't see it, but I felt it.
But you can feel the disturbance in the force.
Yes.
like they actually think that all of Jesus' stories happened. And they think that Revelation's ending is still going to happen. Newsflash, the Revelation's ending was talking about the fall of fucking Rome. And they got that wrong.
What?
So
what? No, that's no. The seven heads. That's totally not the seven hills of Rome. This isn't a metaphor at all. What are you talking?
Yeah, no, of course not.
Yeah, no. It literal D&D beasts are going to come out and kill the world. I mean, at this fucking point, I wouldn't be surprised, but I doubt it's coming.
Just like the story of Cain and Abel isn't in any way analogous to Romulus and Remus.
No, of course not.
Of course not.
No, that's just, why the hell would they want to convert the Romans? They already had the Jews.
Right. No, that doesn't make any sense.
But yeah. See, we're doing kind of a societal faux pas, though. We're talking about religion And now we're going to start talking about politics.
Two things that are not supposed to be in the same sentence, but have you guys even listened to this show before?
Yeah, basically.
Oh dear.
So we've been tossing around this idea of talking about the politics of the Anarchy arena.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been telling Chris I really want to do this episode, especially right now with all the shit that's going on, because it's kind of fired me the fuck up. So fuck it, we're going to do it here tonight. There's a reason why we're called the Anarchy Arena Podcast, and it ain't just because that's the group we used to be part of on Twitch that we called ourselves. No, at least 2 out of the 3 on this call are anarchists.
Hello.
To put it in perspective, Chris, you know the political compass test, and it's like,
I know the one.
Here's Gandhi's right here. I'm left of Gandhi.
I'm not surprised, not in the slightest.
Like,
nor is anybody who's listening to you speak for more than 5 minutes.
True.
I'm actually very surprised in a recent comparative test that I took about that. I'm actually slightly I'm not more left than Gandhi. I'm actually lower than Gandhi. I'm actually less authoritarian than Gandhi.
Yes.
Which is very hard to do. But I did it.
I'm less authoritarian than Noam Chomsky.
That's
all right.
That's amazing.
That's hilariously frightening.
It's like when people say, "Oh, I'm a libertarian." Yeah, are you?
Do you actually
just
understand
because
what
you can
that
spell
word
it
means?
doesn't mean you are one?
Yeah. Are you a libertarian? Yeah, I think that you should be able to own whatever the hell you want to own. And well, what about private land? Well, I think you should be able to buy your own place. You're close. You're close. You're almost there.
Not quite though.
Come on.
Not quite.
To put this perspective, this is what John believes. Not everybody in the Anarchy Arena. This is what John believes.
No, I am much more centrist.
Yes, you are.
Than I think even I realize on occasion.
Yes, you are. I believe that the private ownership of land, property, if anything like that, is barbaric and continues a classist oppression system that has been going on in this country and other countries for many, many years, for far, far too long. I think that if we the people, and I'm talking about we the people, not we the American people, I'm talking about everybody around the world that doesn't fit into the upper class, decided to get together and stay together, that we could actually have a much better political system. I think if we the people started voting for the people we want to win instead of who they want us to vote for, I think we the people could do a better job than most any other administration ever has at running our country, running our planet, and we would probably see actual innovations going on, not only societal but also scientific. And I also believe that you should be able to make your own decisions, be your own leader. You shouldn't have to live your life according to any leader, whether they be someone like Barack Obama or Donald J. Trump. I feel like if you look to your president for action, then you are a fool and you are a sheep and you need to become a goat.
Workers of the world unite, man.
Right. What do you have to lose except your chains?
Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing. Not a goddamn thing. Which is weird because that's how me and Yogi got along originally.
Yeah.
It's because we both kind of were like, oh shit, hi, other person that agrees with like a lot of what I say.
No, exactly, right? Because more specifically, and this is how, like, when people ask me, like, well, wait, how can you be like a social anarchist and be Hindu? I'm like, well, because specifically, I adhere to a more Gandhian model. Gandhi was a social anarchist. People forget this all the time. He was a socialist and an anarchist. He was very much against statism, and he was against private enterprise. Very, very much so. So to kind of quote Gandhi on like the issues of oppression and like what do you have to lose, what I'll say is, to quote him, they may beat me, They may torture me. They may even kill me. And then they'll have my dead body, not my obedience.
Right. Which I know is terrifying to think about, right, Chris?
I wouldn't say terrifying per se. The right way to put this. If you could lift communism off of the paper and actually make it work the way it's supposed to, it would be the perfect system. Unfortunately, once you get people involved, it ceases to be a perfect system.
That's the reason why
I disagree with that statement.
You don't think people have an inherent tendency to covet power or covet greed?
Oh,
at least not in our current, or at least in our current society.
Okay, not necessarily that, but the idea of like that it only works on paper, it can't work in real life. I disagree with that statement because every time, and this is true, if you really look at this, every single time that has been attempted, what happens is the larger, wealthier, more well-armed capitalist state then does everything it can to interfere with the progress of a smaller, weaker, or more independent state that attempts to have such a social revolution within itself, to the point where it ends up collapsing before it can go much further. I mean, look, I'm not saying I agree with Soviet-style communism, because I'm very disgusted with the politics and existence of a man like Joseph Stalin. I'm not even a Marxist-Leninist. I don't even really agree with Lenin that much. But you can't tell me that the United States and several other like G7 like countries constantly interfered with Russia, constantly interfered with Cuba, constantly interfered with Nicaragua, and even went so far as to organizing coups and infiltrations of their establishments to weaken.
No, you're absolutely right. They absolutely did, because of the dichotomy of, you have to, in order to visualize your enemy, you have to make them different than you. Okay, communism's different than us. How do we make it the enemy? Well, the first step of communism is you have to unify your power base under one small group or one individual in order to create the changes that you want in order to move forward. Eventually, that part is supposed to go away.
Yes.
We just leave out that second part, and it makes them the enemy. That's how that all happened. When the American people were being told what communism was in layman's terms, that whole second section of communism that was written in was left out to deify, right. Not deify. What's the word I'm looking for?
Vilify.
Vilify, demonize them.
Yeah, and the weird part is that first part, the idea of it, like, oh, we have to amass under a small, like, authoritarian group. That's not even necessarily part of communism. That's specifically part of Lenin's interpretation of Marx. There are many other interpretations of Marxist theory that don't even have that as part of it.
Yep, that is the Stalinist communism. That's Leninist communism.
That's Maoism.
Even Lenin didn't go that. That's Maoism. Even Lenin didn't really want to go that far. He was just kind of forced to, because, well, he had some authoritarians under his fucking wing. Marx, and I don't even agree with a lot of what Karl Marx says. I don't even really agree with socialism. That I agree that if we were living for each other instead of for our paychecks and for our greed, that world would be much better. But I don't know if it's kind of fucking hard to get into that point. But
it's hard in the long term.
Yeah,
you need to have a short-term cataclysmic event to get everybody to wake up,
like COVID-19.
One would only hope. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case.
Oh, you just wait.
Well, yeah, there are already calls like there are so many smaller independent strikes, both of corporate and rent-based systems currently going on. I honestly think if this goes on for much longer, it's only a matter of time for like general strike, because there have been general strikes in the United States history. Like people forget the reason we have Labor Day where it is, and it's not on May the 1st. It's not like on International Workers' Day, is because that there was a social like a socialist-based revolt going on in the United States. Like, we almost had a Russian-ish like style rebellion in the United States during the 30s. Like, that was a thing that occurred.
Yeah. The 40-hour work week, Chris, you need to thank socialists for that. They fought and got really hurt, and some of them died because of that for you.
Oh, I know. I'm fully aware of that fact.
Your paid hourly, your paid vacations, you have to thank a socialist and unions for that.
Social Security.
Social Security. That
Which
is
so many people like
program.
to forget that, even though it's in the name, that it is a socialist program.
Food stamps, SNAP, WIC, anything like that. Those are social programs, aka socialist programs, that were there to protect us. Now, I know what a lot of you may be thinking. Well, if I get on that, then I'm just a detriment to society. One, no, you're not. And don't you ever fucking think that. You are not a detriment to society for being down on your luck and not being able to support yourself. And two, the only reason why you're in that position is because the system has already fucked you multiple fucking times, and you need a little bit of fucking help. So no, you should not feel guilty for taking money from the government. That's what your taxes pay for, or at least they should pay for.
Or at least they should. Now, are there those outliers that completely abuse the system? Absolutely, but you have that in every system, whether it be political or social or corporate or anything. You're going to have those outliers that are going to be there specifically to abuse the system.
Yeah, it's like me and Yogi were talking about this on Jack's stream one night, and someone asked, "Well, what do you do about people who want to be homeless?" And I think me and Yogi had a really good plan. I think, Yogi, you said that in our perfect society, you're allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. You don't have to use the benefits, but if you want to, they're there.
Yeah, you know, like, okay,
right?
People who want, okay, if you were to want a very transient lifestyle in that way, I think that you should have the right to do that. But at the same time, I don't think it's right when the social situations that we've created force people to live that way.
Right.
That's, I think,
for instance, closing down of mental hospitals.
Right.
That's a Reagan thing. Reagan did that. Why? Because, well, he didn't really believe this whole psychology thing. Boy, he was fucking wrong on that. And there's reason why mental health in this country has been set back by about fucking 40 years. But let's not get into that. When you're forced into that situation because of a capitalist system, that is not a failure of socialist or even anarchist systems. That is a failure of capitalist systems. Capitalism's entire fucking goal is to make sure that I get more money than you, and I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want in order to make sure I get more money than you, including and not limited to fucking you out of your own money. Why? Because if I'm smart enough to get away with it, then goddamn it, I should get it.
Yeah, no,
isn't that fucking batshit insane as people who actually live with other people? Like, that's like saying if you buy groceries and I take half your groceries, you're like, where the fuck are my groceries? I'm like, sorry, man, you weren't watching them. Don't you think that's kind of fucked up?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
You know, it very much is, and this is the issue, though, is that how to put it, like, when it comes to capitalism and private ownership and corporate structure and things like this, they have conditioned us in our society so far to the point where even so much as when someone so much as suggests social democracy, which is not the same as democratic socialism, which is not anarchism, which is not communism, which is not socialism, but just social democracy, i.e. still having a capitalist economic base, which I disagree with, but still having that, but with this overarching idea of everything needs to be for the benefit of the upkeep of the society in general, so we have bigger social nets and more regulation. Even suggesting that, people freak out and go, no, it can't operate that way. What about these other countries that do? It's a lie. It can't possibly work that way. Like, people are so conditioned to accept the status quo as it's somewhat frightening.
It's a byproduct of the system that we grew up in, our parents grew up in, and their parents grew up in, and continuing back and back and back. It's a byproduct of that system where you're taught that this is the only way that works, this is the only way that will ever work, and everybody else is wrong. And if you hear otherwise, it's a lie.
Yeah, that's called oppression. That's called authoritarian right.
I'm not denying that tiny bit.
I know you're not, but I'm trying to also let you know something else. And again, I hate breaking your world up, man. I really do. But when you say that you're a leftist, that you're a liberal, you're not. You're a centrist, very centrist. And the reason why I say that is because if all of a sudden private property went away and you weren't allowed to own your, or let's put it this way. Let's go back to the food thing. We have a common refrigerator.
Okay.
And me and you agree, hey, the stuff that we bought together, you can eat what you want, just, leave some for everybody else. You would have a problem with that. I love you, but you would have a problem with that because you buy stuff for you that you think that you deserve. And I get that. And I buy shit for me that I'm like, I want to eat this. This is mine. The whole private ownership, the whole capitalism is the only thing that works. The only reason why people think that is because it's not because it does work, because it doesn't. It's because they've been beaten over the head multiple fucking times that you better be happy with the job that you got and the pay you're getting. Because guess what? If you're not happy with it, you're going to be like one of those guys on the outside. You don't want to be one of them. You want to be one of us, right? That is propaganda at its worst. Capitalism is a belief system. It's a faith system.
Unfortunately.
No, that's not unfortunate. That's by design. It's unfortunate for us broke fuckers because we're not allowed in that club. Sorry, Yogi. I know I'm preaching a little bit here.
I'm not even sure I would call myself a liberalist or a centrist, to be perfectly honest. And this is going to sound nerdy as fuck. Roddenberryist.
Oh, so you're a Star Trek. So guess what?
That's the society I want, but I know what it takes to create it.
Guess what?
That's communism.
Yeah, socialist.
I know it is.
That's democratic socialism.
It's the perfectly idealized version of socialism, the way everything should turn out in the end.
No, that's the end goal. Period.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
World, not a perfect world. That's it.
That's the end goal. Exactly.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be under perfect situations. Perfect fucking no. If we get to that point, that's how it's gonna go. And it kills me when I hear people say, "Oh yeah, I love Star Trek. I want a society based off Star Trek." Really? Why the fuck did you vote for Donald Trump?
Because they do not understand about how this works. Okay, actually, all right. Let's take a step back for a second.
Okay.
When it comes to politics, here's the thing. Big issue is that virtually no one wants to admit that everything that we love, everything that we design, all of these systems, all of these models, everything that we have, whether it's political, social, cultural, philosophical, all of these things are constructs. They are all purely constructs. Now, I don't say that makes them unreal. I mean, I'm like, you've had me on here before. I talk about spiritualism, cult, and all that other shit. So to me, that doesn't mean that they're not real. They are real, but in a very specific way. They're not externally real. They're not phenomenally physically real. They are...
By definition, you're saying they are not things that are part of the natural order. They are not created within nature. We created them.
Well, here's the thing. We created them in our mind, in our consciousness, but I believe that consciousness is part of nature, so I wouldn't say they're not natural. I would say that they're not material.
Yeah. You can't touch socialism. You cannot feel capitalism.
Much like
physically feel it.
Much like how you can't touch thought. Like that's the thing, right? Like people like to think about like the mind as part of completely the material world, but all right, like what is thought? Does it explain the substance? No one knows what that is.
Yeah, not even spiritualists can tell you what the fuck thought is.
So, Yogi, that tells me that you need to do enough acid to break into the Akashic field then.
God damn it.
As if I haven't.
Yeah. Like, dude, I've done that on weed. Like,
oh yeah,
I've tripped on weed before.
In fact, no. If oh god, can you imagine if both? Okay, no, if both Jack and I were on here at the same time, we would tell you there have been moments where him and I were in the Akashic field at the same time, and we accidentally fucked each other's shit up. Like, this is a thing that occurs.
Somehow, I'm not surprised by that.
You know?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
But no, but yeah, when it comes to this, it's this idea that none of this stuff is materially real. It's immaterially real. It's real in the same sense of how thoughts and feelings are real, but not part of the empirical, like the empirically measurable physical phenomena of existence. Now, that again doesn't mean they're not real. It just means that they're malleable. That it means they're much more malleable. They're much more able to be manipulated at our will. Now, that being said, that means the good news about that is that whenever we have crappy systems, we have the ability to change those systems. Because none of this is based upon for really real stuff. It's all stuff that we have agreed upon. We can change the agreement. The problem is the people who benefit from the systems have been in such a position of benefit of power for so long, they have a vested interest in keeping you from realizing that none of this stuff is for really real.
It's just a ride.
And this is why I say I'm a Roddenberryist. Because what did it take to create that society? Basically, somebody had to hit the restart button on Earth.
Societal failure is the best time for systemic change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is why I'm okay with it. I'm okay with there being a reset button for Earth. Even if I don't survive the reset button, Earth needs a reset button.
It does. And which is the reason why people like me, you need to listen to people like me and Yogi. I'm not saying you have to agree with us, because that's authoritarian to me. I don't give a fuck if you believe me. If you believe me or not, it's my beliefs and it's your beliefs. You have your freedom. I have my freedom.
There's a concept, everybody.
Yeah.
Remember that. You're allowed to have those.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are free to be an idiot. We don't recommend it, but you are free to be an idiot.
You are free to go out in the middle of this shit and not wear a mask. You are not free of not catching COVID.
Exactly. No matter how much of the wind of God you have.
Blow.
The wind of God. But that's the thing, like, the people that are on kind of me and Yogi's side are here telling you, like, all the wonderful dreams and ideas that you had about how the system is. It's a little jagged, but it's a good system. We're telling you that it's not. And now you're seeing it. Why? Because you have the epitome of the system
failing itself.
And not only that, you have the epitome of the system representing the system. And it's failing hard.
And here's another thing about that, right? A big thing about, okay, so I was just saying about how, like, you know, the people in charge of this particular system, they're making sure, they're doing everything they can to make sure that people believe that this is for really real, can't be way. A big way in which they do that is linguistic warfare. It's ownership of language definition. Like, okay, Chris, I'm gonna ask you as kind of like the stand-in for the audience listening to this, because I'm pretty sure any listener who heard John go on about private property and me agree with him, like, are very conflicted about that statement because of what they think that means. Let me ask you, Chris, when you hear the words private property, what do you think that means?
Privately held land by an individual or group.
Okay, but what does it mean to be privately held?
Should mean, in theory, that if I am the landowner of said private land, I should expect some autonomy. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and I recognize that, but I should expect some autonomy.
Okay, let me ask you something. Do you own any private property? Could be the smallest thing on the planet. Do you yourself own any private property?
Do I own private property?
Yes.
No.
Okay. All right. Now, here's the thing. When I ask that to people, they might say, oh, well, you know, I have my clothes, I have my toothbrush, I have my car. or even I have my house, or I have the land that my house is on. None of those things are private property.
No.
Yeah, because here's now this is where we get into definitional differences, right? Now, according to economic theory in general, because remember, when Marx wrote about this, Marx was an economist. He was a numbers guy and he was an economist. That was his main thing. And then Kropotkin, who, if anyone has not read Peter Kropotkin's Bread book, I highly recommend you go do so. He's an anarchist writer and he's absolutely great. But here's the thing: a lot of these people who write about communism, socialism, and anarchism, their backgrounds are in science and math, right? Like Kropotkin, biologist, Marx, economist. Engels was also into economic theories. Now, so when it comes to actual economic theory, private property is property which you own but do not use.
Yeah.
If you own it but don't use it, and use your ownership of that property to get money out of people who do need to use it or have the ability to use it, that's private property. That's capital. That's what capitalism is. We're not saying when anarchists and socialists are against private property, we're not against you owning land that you live on and use. We're not against you owning your personal effects and possessions. That's personal property. We're against the concept of you having exclusive ownership rights to land and resources that you by yourself could not possibly use, but you have sole propriety over it and use that to extort money out of other people. We don't think that's correct.
For instance, let's say you owned an apartment building. That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Where you control the price of rent and the price of utilities, and you can either have it as high as you want it or low as you want it, as long as people are paying. Well, me and Yogi see that as the tools of the oppressor. You will either pay me $3,000 a month to live in a very nice apartment in a very nice part of town, or you could pay somebody $600 to live in a shitty part of town. Which one would you rather do? That's right, fork over the fucking money, asshole. And I expected the first or the fifth of the month every month, or I'll take you to court and sue your ass and kick you out on the street.
Right.
That's private property.
Exactly. Now, I will admit that because I come from the Gandhian school of social thought, I'm okay with stewardship. I'm okay with especially in the sense of when you try to apply something like that to a large area, like the United States, for instance. We're a very big country. We have a lot of people, a lot of infrastructure, and a lot of money. So applying it to something like that, I'm totally okay with people being put in charge of things as a highly regulated overseer. But the idea of them being able to claim sole proprietorship of of those resources or of that area, I disagree.
Yeah. I feel like we moved along from the current political climate to
political theory?
Political theory and teaching people the definition of basic concepts.
Right. Well, and we did kind of, which is a good thing. I think that people need to know about this stuff, because that's another big problem that I see in America. People claim to be like on one side or the other and not know that they're really kind of all on the same side. Like when we have these discussions about political theory and definitions and whatnot, the reason why we're having these is so that people don't think that anarchists are just about blowing shit up and taking everything away from rich people. We're about half of that. But
I mean, if you're going to take away anything from anybody, let it be the rich people.
Right. Eat the rich.
Again, we've been over this. Don't eat them. They live on fatty, shitty foods. Their meat's going to taste terrible. Just get rid of them. Just get rid of them.
Well, and that's kind of what anarchists are about. It's not about like taking the money away from everybody, or even socialists. We're not taking the money away from everybody. We're asking the people that are doing a lot better off to pay their fair share to put it back into society so that the society that they have benefited from can be helped as a whole, and therefore society gets better.
Yeah,
and that's the reason why, a lot of anarchists are socialists. I'm kind of in Yogi's camp. I'm kind of a socio-anarchist. I think that things would be better if the people made the decision. I said this before. But I also know that there's certain things that I understand. Like, do people think that Bernie Sanders was the candidate for socialist and anarchist? No. He was the compromise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, he's also the most well-known one.
He is one of the most well-known ones, but he was also the compromise. He was like, no. He ticks a lot of my boxes. He doesn't tick all of them, but he ticks a lot of them, and I like him, and he's a good fucking person. So yeah, I'd vote for him.
Yeah. Bernie's a social democrat, and how to put it, social democrats are people who are actually on the left, people who are like socialists, communists, anarchists. We can look at we look at social democrats and we're like, we can work.
Yeah, we're like, you're almost there. We'll be friends. I'll keep trying to bring you closer, but you're almost there.
You're close enough. I can reach out and shake your hand, so
right,
you're cool.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, we don't have Bernie Sanders as a presidential candidate.
Fuck you. I'm writing him in.
Why? Why would you waste your fucking vote right now? And I know this is gonna sound like fucking doomsaying, but hear me out on this. Right now, we're fighting for our republic. We are fighting for society in general. And I understand Biden is not a great choice, but you know what? Biden is one of those people you could reach out and touch and go, hey man, listen, we want these things. And Biden may actually listen.
Emphasis on may. I'm losing faith in him more and more day by day.
Oh, really? What about Trump?
I never had faith in him to begin with. So.
Okay, then. Would you rather have Biden in there so you can get some of your ideas in, or Trump in for another 4 years without the chance of re-election?
See, here's the thing about this, right? And I have to go along with people like, it's so weird because people like Marx, people like Chomsky, even people like Lenin, this is what's so weird, right? Even these people, they all had written and issued statements that went along the lines of, look, even if the vote isn't aligned with us, at this type of juncture, this is not the time to lash out with bitterness by voting, by just writing in and voting against everyone we dislike. Because this is unfortunately what we're stuck with. So at this point, it's our duty to vote the best that we can, while simultaneously still working to dismantle the oppression structure from the outside.
Right. I know you want to vote for Bernie. I would love to be voting for Bernie in November too, but that ain't gonna happen.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you how we end this and how we end this whole debate. Somebody turn the entire planet into a glass sheet and let's start over.
No, see, that's eugenics shit. You don't do that.
No, eugenics is selectively picking which people survive the glass sheet.
You're selectively picking
I'm
nobody.
not selectively picking shit. Everybody gets hit with a fucking blast of glass.
See, that's stupid. That implies that there's no way we can change it. I'm telling you that there is. I understand you don't want to vote for Biden. I don't want to vote for Biden. Biden don't fucking get me excited. Wait. But I do want to vote. I know, right? Shocking.
Well, wait, hold on. Like Chris is pointing out, like, end to this debate. Is this a debate? Am I on a thing? Are we having a Dude, I swear to God, I thought I was just talking to images in my mirror the whole time. What the fuck's going on?
You are.
Oh, we are the God. Images in your mirror. But yeah. Vote for Biden if you want to keep the Republic as it is, and then we could do changes to it, or write in Bernie and literally throw away your vote so that Trump can get reelected and shit gets worse in 4 years. Those are your options, man. I know they're not great options.
They never have been.
They never are. That's the reason why we have to work to change it. That's the reason why Bernie told us it wasn't him, it was us. Bernie isn't going to always be there. We have to take the fucking reins, and we have to fucking change it. And that's why we at the Anarchy Arena podcast like to thank you guys for listening to us tonight. Hopefully this has been informative. If at the very least, I hope it's been very entertaining. I love talking to Yogi. I love talking to you, Chris, about this stuff, because I know at the end of this, we're not going to think less of each other.
Of course not.
We're not going to get angry at each other. We're just people that have somewhat differing opinions on certain things, but at the end of the day, we kind of all want society to grow better.
We all, I feel that all three of us collectively want people to be okay. Like, that's really our baseline. We want people in general to be doing
okay. And people are not doing okay.
Right. And that's the reason why we gotta vote for the lesser of two evils.
But speaking of people that should be doing okay, people listening to this podcast are going to be doing very okay here shortly, because John and I are in the works on a plan, a devious, backhanded, evil, maniacal plan to get two of our favorite guests together on one show. I'm not going to tell you who it is. If you know who it is, you'll figure it out. And we're going to get these two opposing individuals. They're not really opposing, but opposing ideology individuals on the same show together. We're laying the groundwork for it. Expect it somewhere around episode 30 if we can manage it.
Right.
I'm so excited. God, I can't stand it. It's amazing.
I can hear it. See, Yogi, you should be as excited as Yogi right now.
Yes, you should.
We'll keep dropping hints. We'll keep letting you tease what it's going to be. So in order to find out, that means you got to keep listening right here to the Anarchy Arena podcast, out every damn Tuesday. Yogi, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. I love talking to you guys. I love doing this. I love this show. I love this damn show.
Well, we love you too, Yogi.
And we will most definitely have you back again. But for now, I have been Chris the Metal Barrett.
I've been John the Joker.
And we will see you next time on the Anarchy Arena podcast. Words podcast. Wow.
Yeah, I think that's what this thing's called.
It's a podcast. No, it's White Trash Netflix. We'll see you next time on White Trash Netflix.
Cod pieces.